everyone, and welcome to the third installment of this lot of 100 plus patterns that I purchased over on Facebook. In previous videos, I've showed you the patterns from this lot by Butterick and by Advance, and today we are going through all of the patterns by Simplicity, and there are a couple by Vogue that stuck in here too. The majority of these are larger sizes, and the majority of them are factory folded and in fantastic condition. It really was just such a joy to go through these, and I hope you guys enjoy going through them as well. I purchased 4 lots from this specific seller, and they were broken down by brand, so that's how I'm doing these videos as well. I've already gone through all of the Butterick patterns, and you might have already seen the lot of Advance and mccalls patterns, and unlike most vintage pattern breakdowns, the fewest patterns they had were actually from Simplicity, and the Simplicity designs were kind of the least interesting, though there are definitely still some good ones in there. So we're going to go through those today. These are mostly ones that I bought, but I think these ones right here are ones that they threw in for free, which was nice of them, so I'll go through those as well, but they might not be as exciting of designs. So this pattern is in a size 16, so it's a little bit smaller than the majority of the patterns in this lot, but it makes up for it by being so interesting. It's got these off-the-shoulder puff sleeves, this straight neckline with scallop details, a very full either pleated or gathered skirt. Then you actually have this leg of mutton sort of 1890s-ish sleeve going on, which I've never seen on a vintage pattern before, and I find very exciting. This definitely isn't one that I'm tempted to keep for myself, but it's so unique I hope it finds a good home, and it feels like it could be factory folded, but it is also missing its flap, which makes me think it has been used before given its sort of rough shape. Here we have another one that feels factory folded. This one is for a 42-inch bust and 45-inch hips. This is clearly from the 1940s, probably the early 1940s based off of the length. And this is a bolero or a jacket, and then you can also make a shirtwaist style dress from it. And they actually show how you could make that dress out of 2 different materials to make it look like a coordinating skirt and blouse set. This is the same size, so for a 42-inch bust and 45-inch hips, and it looks to be from the same period. This one's for a suit that is fitted to the waist with gathers above and below the bust. Then you have a pleated skirt to pair the jacket with. Another size 42 that also feels factory folded. This is number 1833, and it is for a jacket or a blouse. Yes, could be either. This has very broad shoulder pads and a few different sleeve options. It also looks like it includes transfers or at least instructions for doing the sequin design across it. So that's sort of neat, and I definitely hope that that is intact and included so someone can use that the way it was intended. This is a size 20 pattern that looks like it has a printing error or something, or maybe it was left out in the sun. The cover is very faded and it feels like it's too far up on the envelope. But this is number 4087 and it feels like it could be factory folded. It's an asymmetrical design with a tiny little notched collar. I feel like those are the most exciting ones and the rest are mostly from the 60s, but there are still some good designs to be found. Here we have one that I might actually keep for myself because though this is simple, I think it's really, really cute. You have a cap sleeve dress with either a lightly flared or a fitted pleated skirt, and then you've got this really pretty almost off the shoulder collar. It just looks like very flattering and very easy to make. Here we have another size 16, either evening dress or party dress pattern, though this one is a little bit more normal since it doesn't have ridiculous sleeves. This is either a strapless or a spaghetti strap pattern with a sweetheart neckline and an optional collar, and then it has a little bolero pattern included as well. That one was in a size 16 and so is this one. This is just a very classic V-neck dress fitted with darts with a super duper full skirt. This is number 1159. Here we have another size 42 pattern for the 1940s. Feels like it could be factory folded. This number 2036, and you've got a jacket that is fitted with tucks at the waist that extend all the way to the hem of the jacket. And then you have a pleated skirt to go with it. And wow, what a dramatic shoulder this pattern has. I'm not sure I've ever seen shoulder pads that broad on a pattern illustration before. Very intimidating. This pattern is from the 50s in a size 20.5 for a 39-inch bust. If you aren't familiar with half-size patterns, they're generally considered petite or stout size patterns. They have slightly larger measurements than other patterns from that period and slightly different proportions too. This one has a shawl collar and it's got really pretty kind of seaming details on the jacket that line up with these seams on the skirt, and then it's further fitted with darts at the waist. Very pretty, not one I'm tempted to keep for myself just because I don't really wear suits, but it is absolutely lovely and feels like it might be factory folded. This is another 20.5 one. This is an asymmetric design with a sweetheart neckline and a button down front. This one, it feels like it has been used and loved, definitely not factory folded. This one could be factory folded or it could just be neatly folded. It's sort of hard to tell, but it feels like it's in good condition. This number 1997. That's a great year, the year I was born, and this is in a size 42, and it is for a slip in 2 different lengths, and it's probably from the 1940s. I don't know if I mentioned that. This one feels factory folded, and it's a super interesting design. I kind of glanced past this illustration and just figured it would be a boring design given the decade it's from, being the late 1950s or early 60s. It's actually really, really cool. I'll zoom you in so you can see. It's got these pleated details at the collar, which is inserted in a slash, or the neckline, I guess, on one side. And then it's got a similar drape detail in the skirt, made using the same technique, on the opposite side. And you can actually tuck a bow through that detail at the top to create a really lovely effect. This whole green look I just love. It's like they've even painted her with green eyeshadow, and then she's got the matching shoes. It's just perfection. Very, very cool pattern. Size 20 for a 40-inch bust, so great size too. This one feels factory folded, and this is in a size 20.5. This is very Queen's Gambit, making something based off of that show, so I've been thinking a lot about its fashions. But you've got this sort of boxy 1960s swing coat with little pocket details, and then a pleated flared dress to go underneath it with a scoop neckline with a little notch at the front. And this is actually shaped with 2 darts, so you'll get a much more flattering fit under the bust. This one feels like it has been used and loved, and it's in a size 40 for a 42-inch bust. It's a very simple, relatively short, quite scandalously short for the 1960s, dress with a matching bolero. This one feels factory folded. This is a dress with a zip front, maybe, potentially. For the 1960s, you can make this either with a flared or a fitted skirt, and you've got pockets on both sides. This is a Slender Wrap pattern, and I don't remember what that means, but I know it means something. This is a later 1960s pattern. I do not find this style to be particularly flattering, but this is in a size 12, so for someone with a 32-inch bust, and pretty much everything looks good on you when you have a 32-inch bust. This is number 4296, and it is just a box pleated skirt with a kind of boxy styled blouse to go with it. Here's a size 14.5 pattern for a 35-inch bust. This is later 1960s, and again you have a relatively boxy jacket or vest that is the same length as the dress that goes underneath it, and that dress has that kind of uniquely full but not super full shape for the 1960s. With either short or long bishop sleeves. This is a size 20.5 pattern for a 41-inch bust, and again you have a fit or flare choice of skirt designs, and then the bodice has an interesting notch detail that actually extends down pretty far, and it looks like they have some additional pieces so you can style it with a few different types of collars or bow, and of course the bow is my favorite because bows are superior to every other option. This one feels like it's been used. It is a size 22.5 for a 43-inch bust. This is a party dress or evening dress pattern, I guess depending on how long you make it. It's got this interesting cut where the front skirt panel is part of the bodice, and then the side skirt panels are sewn and pleated to fit the bottom edge of the bodice. You can probably see here with those being the side panels and that being the front and the back panel. So that's kind of interesting, a really neat, probably very flattering effect. It's got a rounded neckline at the front, but a beautiful V-neck at the back. This design I might have to keep for myself. I think it's really interesting. It's a slim cut 1950s dress with kick pleats at the hem, so you should be able to walk easily in it. It's shaped with a dart at the underarm, but it's also got this really interesting lap detail going on at the front that button's closed. I feel like that would be really fiddly and complicated to make, but I also think the end result looks amazing. So that's probably going into my personal collection. This pattern feels like it's been used. It is number 4298, and it is a 7-day wardrobe. So it is a pattern for 3 different garments, I think. You can make a fitted, a full dress, and a jacket or a vest. So it's 1 bodice pattern, 2 skirt patterns, 2 sleeve options, and then a jacket pattern that you can make with or without sleeves. So you can make a lot of different looking garments just by which pattern pieces you choose to use. So you could use this to create 7 days worth of clothing, which they have shown as an example. And it's an odd size, and odd sizes are junior sizes, which are made from more of a pear-shaped figure. So they tend to have larger measurements below the waist and smaller measurements above it. This is a really cool size 40 pattern from the 60s that feels factory folded. Again, you have that fit or that flared option, but they've actually done some neat stuff to the fitted option. You've got these pleats at either side of the skirt, which kind of mimic the pin tucks that you can have on the front of the bodice. You can have either a scoop neck notched collar or a V-neck created with a tie. Here's a 1940s pattern that feels like it might be factory folded. Could just be neatly folded because the tissue from this period was very thin and pretty easy to refold up to make it appear like it hasn't been used. But either way, it's in a size 42, and it's for 3 very different looking blouses. I guess these are quite similar, but you can make it with short or bishop sleeves. But then they also have this cap sleeve design, which doesn't have sleeves at all. But then you have this dolman or kimono sleeve design, basically what little sleeves there are cut in one with the bodice pieces. And you have this really interesting notched neckline detail on it. And looking at this, they have checked on the back which pieces are included, which makes me think it has been used before. But that's okay. Here's another 1940s suit pattern. They clearly liked these. This one has really interesting tab details that you can have across the shoulders or at the waist. You've got a lightly flared skirt. This one feels like it could be factory folded, but the tissue also feels damaged, so I'm not entirely sure about that. Back to the 60s with this 22.5 size pattern for a 43-inch bust. I like the shape of this a lot. It's just a knee-length, lightly flared shirtwaist dress with buttons down the front. You can make it with a collar or without a collar, or with sleeves or without sleeves. This is another 1940s pattern for a 42-inch bust, and this is shaped with gathers at the shoulder. You can have a deep V-neck or relatively modest neck. They also offer button or bow trimming options. Again, the bow is vastly superior. And it's got a very pretty peplum too. So it looks like you can have a kind of loose peplum that would go over top of a skirt, or you can have a more fitted peplum if you're looking to tuck it in. Here's a size 18 proportion pattern. I hate proportion patterns because there are so many pieces to count. It doesn't look like there are very many pieces, but they give you separate skirt pieces and bodice pieces for each different size. And though the only size this pattern is cut in is a size 18, it's cut in 3 different lengths for 3 different proportions or heights. So there's a short, a medium, and a tall size pattern included within this single pattern. And it makes it very annoying to count all of the pieces. So these usually end up in my giveaway pile simply because I don't want to go through the effort. Here we have pattern number 2972, and this is for a skirt and an overblouse. And the overblouse has a cute little fitted peplum that flares out nicely over the hips and then buttons down the front, and you can make it with or without a collar. And then the skirt has a little pleat at the front to provide more movement. Here's a size 20 pattern. I really like this design of this. I'll zoom you in to see all the details. I don't think I'll keep this for myself, but it almost reminds me of a spider web, the way this skirt yoke, or the bottom edge of the bodice, I guess, is shaped. It's scalloped, but they're inverted scallops, and then it has darts going up from that to make it look like the lines in a spider web. You can make this with short or long sleeves, with a scalloped lapel or a scalloped neckline. Actually, I guess it's the same neckline. This is just folded the neckline outward to create the appearance of a lapel. And then you've got a flared skirt, and this feels like it could be factory folded, and it is for a size 20 for a 38-inch bust. This is a 1950s pattern. Again, feels factory folded. It is 4960 in a size 20.5 for a 39-inch bust. Got this really interesting sort of boxy armhole shape with wing cuffs, and then it buttons down the front, but it's got an unusual button pattern, so it's a little bit more interesting. Though it looks quite annoying to make. There are 6 sets of 3 buttonholes, so that is 18 buttonholes you would have to make for this, and 18 buttons you would have to sew on for this, and that's a little bit too much effort for me. This is a square-necked dress pattern, just a really pretty summer dress with a few darts to shape it at the front and a lightly flared skirt. This looks like something you could wear grocery shopping or wear to a wedding, and I really like the versatility of that. And I think both prints they've actually chosen for the envelope are quite stunning. And that feels like it could be factory folded. It is a size 20 for a 38-inch bust. Here's a size 12 pattern that feels like it has been used. I'm not even sure what this is a pattern for. There's a lot going on here. It says you can make a Juniors and Mrs. Bonus Basic one-piece dress, tunic in 2 lengths, and jacket. So it has 2 tunic patterns, a jacket pattern, and a dress pattern. So that is what's going on there. And this is in a size 12 for a 32-inch bust. Here's a size 22.5 1960s pattern that feels like it could be factory folded. We've got a relatively boxy fit jacket, an overblouse, and a skirt. So it is a full woman's suit set, perfect for 1960s styles if you're into that. And this is the last of the 1960s and earlier simplicity patterns. This is number 5354 in a size 42. For a 44-inch bust, which is confusing. This feels like it's been used before, and you've got either a fitted or lightly flared knee-length dress option with a square neckline. And then lastly, we have a few extras they threw in, and right on top here is what feels to be a factory folded Vogue pattern for a 1950s jacket. I don't think I'm going to keep this just because it has a seam here, which I think would make it look more maternity-ish on me than swing coats already look on me, and they already look quite maternity-ish on me. But I really like the kimono sleeves on this. I really like the shape with that inverted box pleat at the back. I think it's really, really stylish, and I'm sure someone else can give this an amazing home. Then we have a simplicity wedding dress pattern from the 70s in a size 16, which feels factory folded. We have a butterick pattern, which appears to be a dance costume / Halloween costume. They call it a Mrs. Centennial costume. So they have this one kind of styled as a pilgrim. I'm not really sure what's going on there. This lady has a bonnet. This lady has a lot of lace trim. It's sort of all over the place, but maybe someone will want that. This is another Vogue pattern. This one's in a size 14. This is a very interesting design. It looks like they've used sari fabrics for this example, which I've never seen done before, but they're absolutely stunning. I really like all of these designs. They're just beautiful, and I love the illustrations too. I remember Joann's briefly sold fabrics that would be used for saris, and they were absolutely gorgeous. Then here we have a Vogue printed pattern, so probably from the later 50s, and this is a size 40 for a 42-inch bust. Actually, it might even be from the 60s based on that sizing. This is for a really beautiful either flared or fitted slip, and you can also make a skirt slip. And this one I might actually keep for myself. It's a really, really beautiful design. I like how it's shaped over the bust, and it would definitely fit me in that size. Here we have another wedding dress pattern in a butterick size 12. And lastly, we have what feels to be a factory folded butterick pattern in a size 16 for a 36-inch bust. And this is a fitted kind of Chinese style dress that was very, very popular during that time and is complete with a mandarin collar. So that is it for this box, and that's pretty much it for this video. I am going to go through and organize these and show you how many patterns there are from each era and in each size, and then I will end this video off. So I've done some organizing, and over here I have the pile that are going to be sorted in with the rest of my patterns. They're just different sizes than the rest, such as size 12 and 14 or 14 and a half, and I really like listing lots of similar sizes at once, just so they'll appeal to people in that size range. So it's just not convenient to list a single 14 and a half size pattern when I'm listing a whole bunch of other 42-inch or 38-inch bust ones. So those are going to be sorted into my stash downstairs and listed at a later date. But these are the ones I'm going to focus on. So we have one size 42 for a 44-inch bust. We have two size 40s for 42-inch busts. There are three size 22 and a halves for a 43-inch bust. There are four 20 and a halves for a 41-inch bust. There are three size 20s for a 40-inch bust. And then there are two Vogue size 20s for a 40-inch bust. There are two Simplicity size 42 for 42-inch bust patterns that are not printed, and then there are five that are printed. And these are 1940s, which is why they're separated from the rest. We have three size 20s for a 38-inch bust. We have two size 20 and a halves over here for a 39-inch bust. Then we have three size 16s for a 34-inch bust. And we have a lone Vogue size 14 for a 34-inch bust. This one should probably go on the stack of the ones that are going in the basement, but I'm actually kind of curious to research this pattern more because it's such a unique design. So now I'm going to organize these into a container based off of their sizes and the way where it would be most convenient to list them. And that's the order that I will count and photograph them in.